Hey guys, what's going on? Nick here. How's it going? Sorry. I'm just gonna fix this button here and wait for a couple of you to hang on, or come on, I should say. Um, man. I had been very, kind of thought about, coming on live today. Because I had a whole slew of reasons for wanting to go live and to post live today. And when I say today, I mean, I had stuff lined up to post today. Obviously, today is Wednesday, and not necessarily when I usually post live. But everyone is well aware of the tragedy that occurred at the school, with these kids getting wiped off the face of the earth, and these heroic teachers that did their best to protect, and some were lost. I was actually sitting on this couch with my wife, and she was going over the news story because we had not heard about it till last night. But it had really, and look, this is just me as a parent, a father, an immigrant, a black man in America. And I hate to make this about race. But the reality is, this is a tragedy, and it's reprehensible, and every tragedy like this is reprehensible. But the fear and the hurt and the despair that everyone feels right now, even if you're connected to or you are one of those families, it's the reality of having to wake up one day and people that you love are no longer with you. You are ripped from your bosom ever so suddenly. And I don't mean to make this about race because it shouldn't, but it's a feeling that people of color wake up to every single day. Am I going to make it home? When I leave my house, am I going to make it home? And every time something like this happens, when people are down, life is lost senselessly, people think about that. People think about, is it okay? Whether you're black, white, big, brown, however, you think about, in times like these, you think about what is going to happen. If I send my kid to school today, are they going to come home? That is a legitimate concern for parents all over this nation, regardless of race, creed, color, background. It doesn't matter, because the thing about bullets is, bullets don't care. Bullets care about class. Bullets don't care about your belief system, your history, none of that. Bullets are an equal opportunity destroyer. And that's the thing. I could get into this long line of the conversations that happen, every time something like this happens. The call for gun control, the call for common sense decisions to be made, the thing about mental health. When I say the thing, I don't mean to minimalize that, because it's a very, very big issue. But I believe the mental health issue is something that is usually scapegoated by certain people in this country in order to just shy away from what the real issue is. Because, see, as we know, guns don't kill people by themselves. People pick up those guns to kill people, right? And obviously, I believe that there should be some sense of gun control, sensible gun control, because obviously at this time, it's being proved over and over and over and over and over again that it is way too easy in this country for someone, anyone, to come by a weapon. And not just any weapon, right? Because we could talk about weapons of war, we could talk about assault rifles, we could talk about handguns. We could talk about mid-range weapons, long-range weapons. We could talk about the whole nine. But the fact is, it is way too prevalent that things like this are happening. And the ideas behind it. How is a man, right, an 18-year-old or however old he was, to walk into a school, right, to walk into any school, and we're talking about, according to the story allegedly, this is one of the best law enforcement agencies in that area, and they couldn't stop this man, right? He was able to gain access to the school and gain access to, according to the news story, several rooms before he was stopped. And obviously, one lost life is too much. One is too much, right? But the thing that people keep glossing over is how this happened. How is an adult, a child, anyone able to gain access to a school without properly being vetted? And when I mean vetted, I mean when they enter the building, or if they enter the building at any time, they have to be checked and rechecked in order to be able to even gain access into the building. Right? I mean, this is America, people. It's America. And when people say this is America, that usually implies the connotation that it's the most free country in the world. It is the most advanced country in the world, which unfortunately is not always the case, right? As proven. But it implies some semblance of safety, which in recent years, I mean, not that we've enjoyed too many decades without that feeling of what's going to happen next, because if you've picked up a history book from, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 years, maybe longer, you know that throughout history, there have been points and periods in time where that sense of safety has been threatened. And for black and brown people, the fact that we have to, as a community of minority, if we have to have that conversation with our kids at a very frighteningly early age, how you come back home safe, how to handle being in certain situations, how to respond so you come off as uncombative and as dutifully cooperative as possible. The fact that we have to have those conversations with our kids in minority communities way early than most of our counterparts on this earth is still baffling. It's become so normal that we don't even think twice about it. I remember when I first learned to drive at 15. Now, immigrant kid, 15 years old, been around high school for maybe about a year. You get taught what happens, what should happen, and how you should deal with life when you get pulled over. But aside from that, how do you address the need for parents to feel safe now? I am a father of young kids now. My kids are under 6, and my daughter is at that point where she is about to make that transition into school. And I know a lot of people may think less of me for this, but I'm scared. And I'm just being 100% honest. I'm scared. I'm scared to send my baby off to a school for her to learn, for her to grow, for her to continue to flourish, and for her to improve as a person. and to become a functioning member of society that will change the world that she lives in. But I now have to, and listen, before all this stuff happened, and I'm talking about maybe the last 15 years. Now, obviously, my daughter's 5, and she hasn't been alive for 15 years. But for the last 15 years, I've thought about that concept of my daughter going to school, and you think what every parent thinks about. What about things like bullying? What about things like, just feeling less than, and the cliques and all this stuff? Everything you faced in high school, I faced in high school. Growing up here, and when I say growing up here, I came here when I was 14, right? So had that experience all through high school and stuff like that. So I know what it is, right? And fortunately, I had a better experience than most, right? It wasn't without its problems, but it definitely did not have to happen where my mother had to think about, is her son gonna get shot at school today? It didn't even cross her mind more than once, because obviously she has a black son. So it had to cross her mind at least once, because you never know in America. Now, I'm going back to my point about my daughter and the fact that I am terrified, as many of you are, about possibly sending your child into the public school system or private school or any school that isn't your house. Because outside of your house, you get to control the environment, right? Now, before all this stuff happened, you think of the social issues. What are they going to teach my child? Not, math, science, social studies, history. There's subjects and little microcosms in all of those subjects that you could think, yes, my child needs to know, or my child doesn't need to know. And looking at the landscape with my beliefs as a devout follower of Jesus Christ, there are a great many things in this world right now that I believe that my kids do not need to learn about, in the context of learn about just presented by someone that is not myself or their mother, because we should decide how to raise our kids. Now, they're in school now, right? But, we still have more semblance of control, because we know the child care environment, the early childhood industry enough to know that we have more control than in my people call it big school. So, yeah. Then you think about everything that we read and saw last night, and it terrifies the mess out of you, man. It terrifies the mess out of you, because I didn't need help being afraid of sending my daughter to school, my son to a public school. I didn't need help in that department. And these stories like this really fans the flames, and while fanning the flames, just tip over a gallon of gas onto the fear that is inflamed in your heart and mind. Now, some of you watching this, you might feel the same way, but I guarantee you, when you're a parent, you look at the world through a whole different set of eyes. Because I can tell you, before I had kids, I was a very different individual. Very different individual. And some of you watching this will know how different I was. And some of you, knowing me now, may not know that I was a very different individual back then. But things I thought that was okay now, or was not okay now, I definitely didn't think about too much then, and I thought it would have been fine. But this is the reality that we are facing. That in America today, you now have to think about not so much so that it wasn't something we thought about before, but even more so now, where minority families thought about whether their kids are going to make it home because they're going to be stopped by the wrong cop, or they're going to be attacked by someone or kidnapped by someone or whatever it is. You now add that fear to every family in America. So I guarantee you, I guarantee you, it's not just about minority families anymore. But all of us now know, and all of us are now acutely acquainted with how minority families feel every single day. And for those lost, regardless of race, creed, color, or background, I feel for you, and I pray God help you and comfort you in this time, because it is heartbreaking positively to think as a parent that you woke up this morning with that sinking feeling, and even in that sinking feeling, to really, really want to hold on to the fact for those 2 minutes that you open your eyes, that you could walk into that bedroom across the hall and still see your child there, and to be flung off of that pedestal of hope when you realize and you remember that that child was taken away from you the day previous. That's a reality that no parent should have to go through. No parent. So what am I saying here? As Americans, we need to do better. We need to want better. It is about time. It is high time for us to speak with our votes. It is time for us to speak with our mouths. It is time for us to speak as we know we should, because this happens way too often. Way too many families in this country have lost someone to senseless gun violence. And I know there will be a lot of people that listen to these pundits on TV, especially conservative, ultra-conservative pundits, or people that were paid by them, that it's just a mental thing. This guy was a one-off case. He was just going through something, a very troubled individual. So, at some point, we gotta look at how many troubled individuals have we had just in the last 12 months with senseless acts of violence committed. How many of those? And when do you wake up and question that maybe it might be access. It might be the plan that we have. It might be the things that we think give us security. It might be the things that we chose to ignore. And that if we continue to ignore these things, and if we continue to really ignore these special interest groups that only seek to keep guns and access to guns as free and easy as it is now, to leave things as they are now is downright wrong, because our sense of security is now broken. Dozens of families are without babies, without children. The fact that someone because listen to the shocking reality of this. If an unstable individual or someone who is mentally compromised walks into a building, they can only do as much harm as they have weapons to do so. And I'm not just talking about guns. I'm not just talking about knives or whatever it is. I'm talking about if someone who is in that spectrum where they are so much mentally compromised that they consider harming lives, how easy is it to stop them if they don't have a weapon to stop who's stopping them? We have to start thinking about common sense solutions. I have a lot of people that I know personally that, will jump up and say, hey, we got to protect our guns, and, I don't want nobody taking my guns. Yeah, I get that. But at what point do you say, or do you realize that we have to do more as a country? We have to do so much more as a country to make it more difficult for anyone to get a hold of weapons, period. That it can't just be you want one today and go get, or you want one in this minute, and by minute 5 or minute 10 or the next day, whatever it is, that you can just have what you need, right? Seriously, we gotta do better. And I might be one voice, a drop in the very ocean of people that are on live and recording something right now. But as a parent, as a father, please, I urge you to consider this. I urge those who have the ability, which is everybody, to make a difference, to not make them forget. Let us not use this moment just to parade it around for 5-10 minutes proverbially, and then in a week, 2 weeks, we forget all about it, and then the next tragedy happens. Let's not continue that cycle. Let's do something about it now. Let's make it count. I'm not threatening anybody, because that's not my intent. My intent is to bring light to a situation for parents that are now scared, just like myself, to send their kids to school. Hell, to let them be outside. These are the times that we're living in. These are the times that are here now. And regardless if you want to acknowledge it or not, it's here. And it's until we take the responsibility to inform our leaders that we want better, that we need people to do better, that it won't change, that the cycle will continue to repeat, that something happens like this, senseless violence is committed, lives are lost, prayers go up, awareness is lifted and highlighted, and then it gets put down, and then it gets forgotten about, and you go on your daily life and you put down your phone for that 5 minutes until you have to pick it up again and read something like this all over again. When will it end, America? When will it end? A life where you constantly have to worry about if your children will make it home. A life where you have to worry about whether part of your family will be ripped out from under you. No child should lost. But no child should lost. The senseless life like this. We cannot live in fear. We can't live in doubt and disbelief. We have to find the strength to do better, to want better. We have to. Otherwise, people like this who do things like this will win. Stand up for what's right. Stand up for the end of gun violence. Stand up for the end of senseless acts that wipe people off this earth way before their time. Please, before it's too late, before the next tragedy happens, and we have to comfort yet another batch of families. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. If you found anything of value in this, please share it. I know it was long, but it's worth it. Alright, until next time, live life, love God. See you when I see you. Peace.